Going international is an amazing way to gain insight on brand new places, cultures, and experiences. But one aspect of travel a lot of first-timers overlook are all the ways to get from one spot to another. Luckily, I am an alumni of EF Gap Year, and I'm here to share with you everything you'll need to know about the many ways of transportation internationally. I'm Nicole, and I was a student on EF's European Discovery program, a month-long trip across 4 countries, and with so much to do in 1 month, you can bet we had to travel a lot. Luckily, the most anxiety-inducing kind of travel, at least for me, is completely controlled by EF. To get to London and back home from Rome, the tickets were completely taken care of in advance, and all I had to do was grab my bags and get on the plane. Starting the trip in London, there were quite a few options for public transportation in the city, but actually the only way my group used to get around was the London Underground. The Underground, or the Tube, is the largest underground train system in the world. It covers almost all of the London area and can look overwhelming when glanced at for the first time, but how you use it is actually pretty simple. I would know because a group of us wandered off on the first day and got lost and had to figure it out on our own. So if I can do that, then I'm sure you can figure it out with a tour guide. On the first day, you'll be given an Oyster Card. This thing is extremely important and will be the only way you can get in and out of the underground. All you have to do is get to a station, tap it on a scanner that they have at all the entrances, and you're in. You will also have to remember to always tap out when leaving the tube, otherwise it'll think you're just forever on the train. How to actually use this system is by boarding different color-coded lines that lead to certain sections of London. If you want to explore the city on your own like I did, then I highly recommend you download the Tube app. It's a free app that finds your location and gives you step-by-step instructions on what stations and lines to use to get to your desired location. Once we had to leave London to cross over to France, we actually took a ferry. It was like a streamlined airport, basically. We all had our passports checked at the front, had a quick security check, walked up some ramps that we definitely didn't also get lost in.
Going up just to come back down.
Was this the wrong way? Are we good?
Yeah, I don't know why we're going up just to go back down again. That's what I'm saying.
And boarded the ferry. It was a very comfortable 5-hour ride, pretty simple. Most of the group passed out in a private room.
You should have slept in there.
But when awake and roaming, there are still quite a few things to take a look at. When we got to France, our France trip consisted of stays in Normandy and Paris. The only way to really get around Normandy's World War II sites was by the private coach that we were taking, but Paris had a few more options. The main way we got around the city was by the Paris Metro, which had a couple differences from the Tube. It's much simpler than the Underground, but not as large, with only a few lines to switch back and forth on. Instead of getting a card, you're given a small temporary ticket. To be able to use it, remember to write your name as well as when you intend to begin using it and stop using it. Carry that around with you, let the booths at the entrances and exits eat it, and you're all good. The Metro does also have an app if you need some assistance getting around. Just be aware if you're traveling at all out of Paris, you may have to buy a one-time use ticket, which is what my group had to do since we went to Disneyland Paris for a day. Moving to Switzerland, this time around, we took a train to cross the border. It was even simpler than the ferry, and all we had to do was arrive, scan the QR code, get on the train, and bust on over there. Now, Switzerland is a much smaller country, but it excels more in height than width. A particular ride that I loved was something called a cogwheel train, which travels vertically all the way up Switzerland's huge mountains. This was definitely the most enjoyable form of travel I experienced, but other than that and the occasional gondola, you're gonna have to put your hiking boots on to get up any of those Swiss Alps.
Oh, only took us 4 million years. Whoa.
Hey, you want a hat?
Is there a hat there?
Traveling to Italy last, you should be an expert at public transport at this point. The only thing slightly different in Italy is the bus system in Rome. Instead of a complicated train system, they have a very thorough bus system. They do have trains, but the buses are much easier to use and not nearly as humid. In Rome, you'll get one-time use tickets you can either use for one train ride or on the buses for an hour and a half. Like I said before, I'd recommend the buses just because they're everywhere, but make sure you get those tickets punched when getting on the bus. Otherwise, there is a hefty fine that one of my group mates may or may not have had to pay. And that's a crash course on some of Europe's many ways of public transport. Keep in mind though that while I listed all the awesome options these countries have, all these places are also very walkable. Many excursions, dining spots, and tours will be traveled to on foot in the heart of each city. So while this has been a hopefully informative list of all the ways you'll be getting around, the most valuable transportation you can have over in Europe are some really nice walking shoes.
Why do I always end up climbing a freaking mountain everywhere we go?
It's about the experience.
True.